Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Content Workshop, where we talk about content in depth. Today, I am joined by Graves, a member of the content and media team for the Minnesota Rocker. Me and Graves originally met on Panda Gaming, and he is an amazing esports professional, content creator, and just overall good guy. And he's someone that I 100% want on this podcast. He's anybody that is going to try to get into the esports industry as a whole, into content creation. Hearing his experiences, his background will definitely be inspiring for you and something that you can take along with you as you go along your journey. But Grace, how you doing today?
Doing well, man. Thanks for the kind words and thanks for having me on. This is it's great, man. It's great to be here.
Yeah, man, the kind words are well deserved. To be completely honest, someone from the very get go that I've tried to glean from as far as experiences and glean from how you do things because I think that people can learn a lot from you. So definitely well deserved. But Grace, other than the introduction that I just gave, is there anything that you want to introduce yourself and your background into esports as a whole and how you've gotten to where you are today with the Rocker?
So it's been a long and painful journey to say the least, but growing pains,
Yeah.
I'd rather be the one taking the lumps and passing on those experiences, hopefully to save you guys headaches, but
hmm
you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink or whatever the adage is.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, of course. So yeah,
But
what got you into esports as a whole? Like, where did it all start? I guess is the best way to put it.
I mean, it goes back now 11 years.
hmm
I got my first Xbox 360 and COD 4 in the end of 2009. I got it for Christmas. So December the game was out for a month,
hmm
and that was it. Like I've always been a shooter guy. Like prior to that was SOCOM on PS2.
Oh yeah, I remember SOCOM US Navy SEALs. I used to love that game. That was a great game.
Bro, I would rush home from work. This Christ, I was still late teens, early 20s,
hmm
early 20s. Yeah, because I was playing drunk some of the time.
hmm
But, some of the guys I worked with, they're like, "Yo, you should play this game with us."
hmm
And I got SOCOM 2, and the 3 of us would just play, game battles all night. We fell off, I quit playing for a little bit. Excuse me. Got, my 360 a few years later,
hmm
got COD 4, decided to check out game battles because of that. Stumbled across the MLG Pro Circuit in Modern Warfare 2 with Fwiz and Hastro, and that was it. There was no other game I wanted to play, no other game I cared about
hmm
other than Call of Duty. So I'd rush home every Wednesday at 7 p.m., flip open my computer, and I'm sitting there binging this, watching all these old teams and guys now that are legends like Clay, Scump, seeing these guys play early
hmm
on those ladders. It's crazy to see how far we've come
Yeah,
and
exactly.
like our humble beginnings.
Yeah, and back then that was when the ladder like meant something. Like now it's not. It's still competition, but back then like being on the MLG ladder was actually like a big deal, and like teams would, like fight for that number one spot. Whereas now it's kind of a fun thing for casual players, casual competitive players, the best way to put it to do. But back then, I mean that was almost like that was the pro circuit pretty much is that ladder system and those Wednesday night
Yes.
fights that you're talking about.
That's how you got your name out there, and if
hmm
somebody saw you at the top of the solo ladders, you might have got that one shot that you needed to make it big.
Yeah, it's
Well, then make it big.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's definitely came a long way. I mean, like we were talking about earlier, it's came from freaking the white table type events where everybody's just setting up what they can to now like full production, multi-streamed events that are insane, like for a production standpoint.
Yeah, you're going from, ballrooms in a Radisson to selling out, actual sports arenas.
Mm-hmm.
It's come a long way in the last 10 years.
Yep, in a matter of minutes, it's pretty insane. So as you watch those Wednesday night fights and watch the ladder system, what was your first dip as far as from a working perspective into esports?
So, esports, like the actual esports work,
Mm-hmm.
uh, prior to joining a real team, a bunch of buddies and I put a stream team together, and I
Mm-hmm.
use air quotes because it was only 2 of us that streamed out of, like, 11 people.
Okay.
But from there, I've always been obsessed with, Hector and Optic, like, early Optic.
Mm-hmm.
I would binge, his sniper montages or Machinima's top 5 plays, I think it was, Nade would be on there, Hutch,
Mm-hmm.
CNNers, all these, the OGs of the trade, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that's what I wanted to do. Like at some point, some way, I wanted to join Optic.
Mm-hmm.
Every kid wants to join Optic.
Yeah, exactly.
And seeing that, and then combining that with the pro circuit, learning of all these different teams, we put together our team,
Mhm.
and I binge Midnight. We'll talk more about her later.
Oh yeah, of
but
course, Ashley. Yeah.
so 2015, I decided I was gonna try to stream and be one of those content creators.
Mhm.
I wound up joining Vex as a streamer, and that opened so many doors. Like Vex really popped off in Advanced Warfare and
Mhm.
Ghost. I think they had a good year. So I joined these guys for almost a year,
Mhm.
August through March, I think. Yeah, and things kind of died down. There was no real activity, and I just happened to find Ben, Matt, and Cody from Panda.
Okay. Yeah.
I messaged Ben right around, was it Fort Worth in Black? No, not Black Ops 3. Black Ops 3 I was still with Vex, so Infinite Warfare
Mhm.
when Prof and all those guys were still the players.
Yeah.
I messaged Ben. I was like, "Hey, listen, when you're back from the event, let's talk. I don't see if you guys have a stream team manager." He gets back between Fort Worth and Paris, and we just talk. And he's like, "Listen, I don't need that, but what I do need is someone that can do a website. Can you code?"
Mhm.
Shit, yeah, I can code.
Yeah.
And that was it. Hooked up with Ben at Panda, stayed there for another almost year.
Mhm.
And, we all know the story of Panda and what happened there.
Yeah.
I took some time. I was working with, smaller tier orgs, started my own, and that's just another content team. From there, I saw Minnesota was, they announced CDL. Minnesota's like, hey, we're looking for everything and anyone. Send your resume here. I sent it. They loved me. I loved them.
Mhm.
One of my best friends plays for them. So it was an all around win.
Mhm.
And I was fortunate enough to get picked up as one of the early content interns. And here we are today.
It's awesome, yeah, and like I said at the very beginning, me and Graves met in Panda, and Graves was someone who you did do the website. That was the main thing, but you were like a jack of all trades. Like we were talking about the first time when we were talking about this, is that Panda staff was extremely talented, and I don't think like as already is like Helena's working for the Cavs Legion, Ben's now working for Face It. He's also worked with
Mhm.
Overwatch League teams. You're doing the CDL side of things, and then hopefully once I get my degree done, I can do something with it. But I think looking back on it, like 10 years from like right now, I think we'll look back on that staff and we'll be like, wow, that was an extremely talented staff with a lot of potential. And I don't think people realize like the staff that Panda had at that time overall.
Absolutely.
And it's sad to see the way Panda ended, but I mean that's neither here nor there as far as like how it ended. But everybody's still being successful in going forward. But now with the present with the Minnesota Rocker, kind of detailing what it is that you're doing now, like what your main responsibilities are as a content intern, kind of an independent contractor type person. What is it that you're focusing on with the Minnesota Rocker?
So I'm still back to the jack of all trades kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
flexing in and out where they need me, which really you want a specialty,
Mm-hmm.
especially in esports. You need to find an area to focus on and sell yourself as, listen, this is what I do, this is who I am, and this is why I'm better than everybody else at what I do.
Mm-hmm.
But because I just love to learn shit, that's actually been beneficial.
Mm-hmm.
So I flex in and I'll help, put out a TikTok post or manage the social media, anything and everything they need, they can come ask me. And it's honestly it's win-win because now I'm working with some people I've looked up to for years on a brand that's at the top of the excuse me, top of the friggin'
You're
game right
good.
now,
No, you're good. Yeah.
you know. So and to work hand in hand with Ashley, it's if you would have told me even 5 years ago that I would not only speak to this woman but work on a day-to-day basis with her, I'd have told
Yeah.
you told you guys you were full of shit, but
Yeah. Exactly. No, and I agree. And like we said earlier, is like because of how much content the Minnesota Rocker puts out, like it's almost best to be in that jack of all trades position because you're going to get a ton of experience in a ton of different ways. That
oh yeah,
like if you were in the same exact position with another CDL team like the Gorillas, like we were talking about earlier, that don't put out as much content, it actually might not be a good thing because you're like, okay, I'm doing this here and there, like whatever. But I think the Rocker are the perfect fit for a jack of all trades type position because you're going to get exposure to a lot very quickly, and I think it's really beneficial as a whole, to be honest.
absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, Gary Vee being, 50% owner or co-owner, I don't know the percentages,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
he's got that 65 pieces of content a day philosophy, and it's tough to apply that to esports,
Mm-hmm.
but I get our thinking as to, trying to put that out. And anything really counts as content. Like if a tweet comes in, you just reply to that, it's a piece of content.
Yeah, and
We
I,
can take
I
that and share it and share it and share it, but
hmm yeah, I look at it too from as the esports scene grows, where that philosophy is really useful in my opinion is you have people who are brand new to the scene, right? So if I own a Twitter account for the last year and I've never looked into esports and I see it through the IP, right? I see like the Minnesota event going on the home screen of Call of Duty. So I go on Twitter, log on. That first couple pieces of content they see may be the team they end up going for. And so if
absolutely
you're winning the information game, so to speak, as far as putting out content over and over and over, that might buy you a fan. You know what I mean? So I think the
1,000%.
amount of content being put out for esport endemic people maybe doesn't matter as much. It does, but it doesn't. It matters for the new people, in my opinion, because we are like Gary Vee said, we are in kind of just a make game. Like
Yep.
it's turned from I want to have the best quality possible to I need to put out as much content as possible. So I definitely agree with that. So yeah, that's awesome. As far as the CDL getting started up, I bet you guys are insanely busy. Just everybody, especially hosting the first event, like it's got to be unreal. I can't imagine the pressure for them because it's always the first person is always a sacrificial lamb in any process
Mhm.
ever, from a professional or like a corporate side. So whether you're the first person in a brief or the first person for an event, like there's so many things that you guys have no lessons learned basically with the CDL. So it's got everybody's probably running around like chickens with a head cut off for the most part, I would think.
That's an understatement.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just from what you guys see publicly,
Mm-hmm.
behind the scenes, it's nutty.
Mm-hmm.
Between, getting everything going for what, next Friday? Sheesh.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
next
next
week.
Friday it starts. We've got that going on. Our new facility is done, so we're moving from our temporary location to the permanent location.
Mm-hmm.
Still trying to organize things, lock down, vendors, but I think we got sponsors already. But get everything set up at the armory. There's some unannounced things and fun stuff for everybody attending.
Yeah.
That once you show up, it's like, oh shit, they're doing this.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff going on, and it's insane, but it's a good busy. It's
Mm-hmm.
not like, oh shit, I got to do this or
Yeah.
this video needs to be edited. I got to post that. It feels rewarding. Like we're doing this. This is
Mm-hmm.
us. We're a brand new team, a brand new organization, a lot of new folks to the esports space. So
Mm-hmm.
we got to set that bar super high because we've got the likes of Dallas and Chicago, Atlanta, all these people that have had a high influence on building Call of Duty professionally
Mm-hmm.
to compete with. And because I think we're at the top of the content game, the other only team that's really giving us a run for our money is Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise, us being at the top, we've set the content bar high. So now let's take the event bar and bring it here. So that way, Chris, who's the second host? Is it London or
It's
Atlanta?
London, I believe. Yeah. I
I
think
think
it's London.
London.
Yep.
So if we can set that bar here, and then London, they try, but they only get here. We left that good impression, and we want to see people trying to reach it
Mm-hmm.
and top what we're doing.
Yep, and when it comes to even the local activation side of things, like you want Minnesota Call of Duty to grow as well. Like you want people to be excited about events and stuff like that. And there's a whole other beast with that as far as like convincing people to come to the event and stuff like that. But
That's
overall,
insane.
yeah, it's gotta. That's the biggest challenge I've seen for people for franchise esports is because I mean this as well as I do how our generation, especially the generation after us, like kids are like 13, 14 right now, how they process content. Like I would venture to say a 14-year-old right now when they become 18, 19 would rather like stay at home and watch it on a Twitch stream than they would actually go to the event. That's just my personal opinion. I think it's going to be, it depends. So like, I like how they're changing the CEO format a little bit to where it's a weekend based thing now. I guess
Mhm.
like rephrasing what I just said is I think they'd rather stay home and watch a Twitch stream if it's only one match. But if it's a whole weekend of event and you can make an event out of it, then they'll pay that money. I just don't think kids nowadays are going to spend the money like $100+ to go see one event like someone who's in their 40s right now would have for like a football game or a basketball game. I think just the way people process content and how they prefer to process like entertainment is different now than it was 30 years ago as a whole.
Absolutely agreed. Like
Mm-hmm.
I know the whole goal is to bridge the gap between esports and traditional sports.
Mm-hmm.
There's just some things you can't do.
Yep.
Like I'm not going to spend 40, $50 to go see what's a match run, like an hour
Yeah.
at best if you go all 5 maps. So I'm not going to drive out of my way, especially, since I'm still in LA.
Mm-hmm.
Like say I want to go see Optic play, insert any team here,
Yeah.
right? So not only am I gonna have to drive downtown to, I think, not the Microsoft Theater. Regardless, wherever the hell they're playing, I
Hmm.
know them and the Grillers are doing the same place.
Yeah, they're
I
doing the
think
same homestand.
so. I would have to drive downtown, which already is a clusterfuck.
Hmm.
Um, B, I got to find parking, which is another 20-30 bucks because downtown.
Hmm.
I'm spending, we'll say, comfortably 50-60 bucks for general admission.
Hmm.
So all that's adding up just to go see one match, not worth it. When I can sit home in my sweatpants, not pay extra for food, and just watch it on stream.
Yep.
So if they can take kind of like what they're doing now, the traditional Call of Duty model, but have those like premier matches where it's, come see X and Y battle it out Friday, and
Yeah.
you still got that tournament going on
Hmm.
and the open events. The open events that's clutch because
Yeah.
without those, you're losing easy 50% of your people coming.
Oh yeah, Call of Duty dies without the open events. I'm glad they were at least smart enough to know like we can't take those out. Like it's just not going to work. It will never work in my opinion. You'll always have to have some type of grassroots system underneath the pro level system for it to be
Oh yeah.
potentially work. I do like what you said about, paying money and stuff like that for a single match. I just thought of it like the Florida Mutineers. I like what they're doing too as well. Like even when it's not in Florida, if, like for the next weekend, they're doing a watch party at Top Golf. Like it's like a Top Golf watch
Mhm.
party. It's like that's just other ways. Like it shows you there's other ways to like get your local fan base involved, even if the event's not held at your area. So hopefully teams keep finding kind of unique ways. I talked with my buddy Anthony Marquez about this on our podcast. The Impact podcast and this is really far out. This is a couple years down the road, but maybe if you can implement a VR system, like there's companies out there right now that are making, cameras that are going to go in stadiums where you can like switch your VR scope to where like you're looking at this camera angle at the main stage and vice versa. And maybe you 10 years down the road, someone's paying $30 for a VR ticket to the Armory to like see different areas and like you're sitting in your seat type thing. I just think there's a ton of possibilities with esports that hasn't even been addressed in regular sports yet, as far as viewership. So,
I mean, you could take that technology and combine it with something similar to what Overwatch League did. You know how if you get the Overwatch pass, you can switch between all the players' views.
yeah,
You could do something like that with VR and have it for Call of Duty. Like if you want to be immersed into the crowd,
mm-hmm,
cool. There's a camera for that, so you're front and center watching all this shit play out. Tap a button, and now you're watching your favorite pro. So you've got their camera here and their gameplay here.
mm-hmm.
Stats like there's such potential to do something like that and sell it for $100 a year.
Yeah, exactly. Like I subscribe to the League of Legends one where you can like watch the purview of your favorite during the LCS, watch purview of your favorite player, like what he's doing. Because there's so many applicability that the general viewer likes it. Someone who's trying to get better at the game will like it because they can see how they're playing, all types of stuff. So hopefully the CDL teams can have the creative minds to be able to do that, and I'm sure they do. I know they do. So hopefully they continue to do that. But with all the goods, there's obviously like challenges. So in the short time you've been with the Rocker, and just from your kind of outside and inside perspective at the same time, what challenges have you seen with the start of the CDL, preparing for the first event, putting out content? Like, what are the main kind of roadblocks that y'all have had to work through?
Consistency and quality.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Gary's thing is there's no such thing as bad quality
Mm-hmm.
as long as it's good content.
Mm-hmm.
That's really the biggest hurdle is, all right, so yeah, we don't want it to be crappy, grainy,
Yeah.
half-assed, but at the same time, we want to make sure we're consistently putting stuff out there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really the biggest hurdle, and making sure everything's scheduled and
Mm-hmm.
on focus because it's really uncharted territory for the franchise side of Call of Duty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
Like
agree.
I know you remember with Panda, it's kind of like, hey, here's a laundry list of things we need to do, so figure it out and do it. And we're trying to steer away from that and keep it really structured.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got its growing pains and its learning curve, but ultimately, I think the team's doing an incredible job.
Yeah, they are. Like I've been closely monitoring y'all's team. One because you're on it, and like I know people on it, and like I like the branding personally. Like people didn't like the branding when it first came out. Like I'm sure you saw it. Like people thought it was boring or different or like why. But to me, like
Uh,
that's one of the
I
more
mean,
yeah, that's one of the more
this
unique
guy here.
branding. Like y'all's is one of the more unique branding in my opinion. Like the branding like the Huntsman and you guys, like yes, it's different, but to me that's like pure branding. Like I like the Florida Mutineers. I like, the LA Optic and the LA Gorillas. Like they're really cool, but they're also generic, not in a bad way, but I can see those. Like that's something I could see making up. Y'all's brands are something like I would have never thought of. So
Same.
that's one thing I like about the branding. I had one more thing I was going to talk about. Oh yeah, so with quality, you're talking about quality and consistency of content. One of the things, you have a great mind like Gary Vee, right? And I think he probably even realizes too. And maybe, Gary Vee, if you watch this, you can call me out if I'm wrong. Who knows? But there's what I call implied task when people with really smart minds are like giving you advice. Like they're giving you advice, but they're not giving you the implied task type of thing. So one of the implied tasks of what y'all are doing, I'm sure y'all have even gone over it yourself, is yes, we want consistent content. Yes, we want quality content in the purview of like it brings quality to the consumer. However, it still has to have a structure and like the narrative you're pushing. Like you can't just push content to push content. Like you're not just going to push 65 pieces of content just to dominate your social media. Like that's not how it works. Like everything has to be revolving around a brand, around a narrative, around a key point you're trying to drive home, right? Otherwise, you're just putting out a video that someone's going to watch and they might not even follow you. Like you follow people on social media profiles because they have a storyline and a overall overarching theme, so to speak. So I think that's probably one of the implied tasks that you guys have. I'm guessing you guys have had to figure out. Like you have a brand structure, know what you want to put out, but that's got to be difficult by putting out that amount of content while also staying true to like what you're trying to portray as a brand.
1,000%.
Mm-hmm.
And I think our TikTok is a good example of that.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got, you know, I'll post predominantly game clips
Mm-hmm.
of the guys, whether it's scrims or from stream. And then you've got behind the scenes stuff from the YouTube videos we do. But then there's, the off brand stuff with the TikTok trends, like the dances and stupid shit like that.
Oh yeah, TikTok's huge
So,
on trends. You got to buy into the trends, or else it's just not gonna work. You got to do it. Mm-hmm.
yeah. So I think your platform really depends, or really drives, not depends. Your
Mm-hmm.
content depends on the platform you're driving it on.
Mm-hmm.
So, like you said, if you're putting something out on YouTube, me being representing Minnesota, I can't talk today. Jeez, I'm not gonna hop on YouTube and just rant and rave about Chrono Trigger being the best Super Nintendo game of all time. That
Yeah.
has nothing to do with Minnesota Rocker or Call of Duty. So there's
Mm-hmm.
no reason that's going to go on YouTube. So
Mm-hmm.
you want to make sure that your content is on brand. And if you don't know what your brand is or what your mission is, figure it out.
Yeah,
Figure
exactly.
that out first and make your plan of attack. And it doesn't have to be super detailed, but just have your bullet points of, all right, this is who we are. This is what we want to do. This is what we're trying to accomplish, and stick to it.
Mm-hmm.
Be creative, but stick to it.
Yeah, and one thing that helps with y'all is seen most of y'all's staff just through the podcast, like who y'all have. So y'all have people from that traditional sports background who've worked with traditional sports, but the key players and the key pieces y'all have, I think, are really important. People like yourself, people like Midnight or Ashley, that have already gotten used to building a personal brand in esports. Like Midnight has her own theme and her own brand to who she is. Like people know who Midnight is and who she's all about. And she is a testament, in my opinion, of someone who doesn't have to be overly flashy to be like super popular. Like she's one of the most chill content creators you will ever meet in your life. But she is, she pushes brands really well. So I think it was really smart for them to pick her up, and her being a homegrown Minnesotian, like that just points more to the branding that they're trying to portray, that home style brand.
Hell yeah.
Well, go ahead.
Like, to double down on Ashley here,
Mm-hmm.
she's the perfect example of what a content creator should be, because what you see on camera is what you get in person.
Mm-hmm.
She's not, faking it and putting on airs to try to get popular because of, the content she's putting out.
Mm-hmm.
She's literally just being herself, and what you see is what you get. And that's so missed in this community because everybody's trying to live this, I don't want to say fake or alter life. Like,
They're trying to
you
feel
want to
like
present yourself.
they're trying to put out what they feel what people think is entertaining. Like it might not be fake in a like I try to always assume noble intent. Like they're not doing it because
Mhm.
they're like, oh, I'm trying to trick people and like get views. Maybe they're trying to be like, I don't think I'm like, entertaining. Maybe I need to like be entertained. You know what I mean? Like they might
Yeah,
just be doing it because they feel like that's what they have to do, more so than they don't have to do that. You know what I mean?
agreed.
Mm-hmm.
And I think end of the day, just be genuine.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it takes in this game, is just be yourself, be genuine. It's not going to happen overnight.
Mm-mm.
Period. Like, there's no shortcut to success. If you're going to make it, be yourself and be true to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do something because it's, the popular thing to do. It might be the right thing to do, who knows? I mean, you can try it, but ultimately if it's against your values and your brand,
Mm-hmm.
Don't compromise yourself.
Yeah, I agree, and that's a perfect segue to be honest, because I'm sure that that is a part of your answer. But I was gonna, you read the prompts before we did this, but like your philosophy on content and what you believe works and doesn't work, and just if you don't mind sharing that a little bit, like what you've been about since you started and how that's like evolved over years, and just overall your whole philosophy on content, especially in esports.
For sure. So, like I said, the biggest part for me is to be genuine and be yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm not going to do whatever somebody else is doing because, hey, it's working for them. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean it's going to work for me. It could, but if it's not for me, it's not what I think represents me as a person and a content creator,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to do it. But you can follow all the Google it, like Google what can I do to be a top streamer?
Mm-hmm.
You're going to get the same canned advice, but do what's true to you.
Mm-hmm.
If, oh, you don't want to stream a saturated game. Who gives a shit? Do you have fun playing it? Are you enjoying making that content? Do it.
Mm-hmm.
Stream it, take those highlights, upload them somewhere, take clips, put them on YouTube or Instagram. Hell, you can even put them on TikTok because TikTok is an incredible platform to get eyes on your product. Like I'll put something out, it's just a shitty sniper clip because I'm terrible at sniping, but I'll get, 1, 200 views on it because it's on there. And if you put your stuff in that description, it's going to drive more traffic to your Twitter, your Twitch, or Mixer, whatever platform you stream on.
Mm-hmm.
Like, put content out that you yourself would watch. Don't do it because it's the advice that's given to you. Do it because it's genuine and you're really enjoying yourself.
Yep, I 100% agree. And I think a lot of people are always like, the rebuttal to that, right, is or people are like, I want to do this full time. I want to make money. Like, what do I need to do in order to grow my platform quickly, or what do I need to do to grow my platform as a whole? And what I always tell people to that is it doesn't matter if you do follow like all the catchy stuff, like stream a popular game. I can tell people like data analytic type advice, which is like stream a popular game and go hard as crap and get in as many communities as possible. Network with other streamers, try to do like co-streams, do charity streams, or find a game that's really small but has a niche community. Like there's all this type of
Mhm.
stuff you can do, right? But the overarching thing is if you're not loving what you're doing, you're going to get burned out on it. I don't care if you're growing or not. Like you could stream for 2.5 years and be holding 50 viewers to stream, which is pretty good. That's like close to being able to do it full time. But if you hate what you're doing, like you're not gonna be able to continue doing that. You're not. I don't care if you have 600 subs. Eventually, your content's gonna fall off. The quality of it's gonna fall off. Your drive to do it's gonna fall off. And I've met a bunch of people that are decently successful, but their platforms ended up like going in the tank because they're like, I'm burnt out. Like I hate what I do. Like I've been streaming this one game the whole time. I don't know what else to do. Like I'm really pissed off. So like if you're not loving what you're doing, you're not going to be successful, period, because it's going to start to feel like work and you're going to start to go downhill. So
A
that,
1000% agreed. A
mm-hmm,
1000% agreed. Like, to use an example in my personal life, I quit my super safe, super cushiony job to
mm-hmm,
do esports full time.
mm-hmm,
One of the big driving factors, hey, I mean, I've wanted to do this for years, but two, I know that my 9 to 5 job, I was amazing at it.
mm-hmm,
And that's not just, me stroking my ego. That's, my coworkers and management telling me how much of an asset I am. But regardless,
mm-hmm,
I took that leap because I knew I wasn't enjoying it.
mm-hmm,
Like dreading waking up every morning to drag my ass to an office that I didn't want to be at, to do a job that I couldn't care less about. My quality of work was slipping.
mm-hmm,
What stayed consistent was my drive to keep working for Minnesota or
mm-hmm.
in the Call of Duty League as a whole because I dream about this shit.
Yeah.
If I'm at work, I'm like, damn, I wonder who's scrimming now. Let's see who's live.
Mm-hmm.
What tips can I pick up to better my gameplay? What can I do to make my streams better? What kind of content can I put out for the team? Like, if I'm thinking more about that than my day job,
Mm-hmm.
it's time to make a change. And like you said, if you're not loving what you do, the quality is going to slip and you're going to get burned out.
Y-
And I'm hoping that I don't get burned out and start to hate this shit because right now it's such a wild ride and it's so damn fun.
Yeah.
I wouldn't change it for the world.
Yeah. 100%. I agree. And I've talked to my wife Alexa about this. Is like I can work 12 hours on a PC, but even though right now it's like a side work type thing, like making videos or like making marketing decks. Like I'm making like a portfolio of like professional products so I can show people with a resume. But I do that stuff like technically it's work, but I can be sitting at my computer for 12 hours and it doesn't feel like work. Like I'm totally okay with it. And I could do it every day. At least right now, that's how I feel. So that's how you should feel. Like you should literally. It sounds super cliche, but to the people that have actually done it, it's not cliche. It's like if you need to love what you're doing, like you need to want to get up. Like you set your alarm for 7 a.m. Or 8 a.m. because you're like, I want to start. Like I want to get this going, type thing. So yeah, if you don't love what you do, I don't care how decently successful you're being, you're eventually gonna burn out. And you're not gonna. It's not gonna work long term. Period, as a whole.
And
Um,
that burnout's definitely gonna reflect in, like, what you're putting out too. Like, you
mhm,
might not think it's noticeable, but people are gonna notice. Like,
mhm.
wow, he's falling flat right now. There's no energy. It's just boring. They're going through the motions, and then your shit's gonna start to dwindle, and you're gonna wonder, well, what am I doing wrong? What happened to my community? It's because you're burned out, dude. You're not loving it.
Yeah, exactly. I've had several streamers because being a stream team manager for Impact and even helping Panned Out, which is where I started helping with streamers, is like you can notice that like when you watch a streamer for a year or two, like you notice like there's been a couple of streamers where I've hit them up and be like, "Hey, are you good?" And they're like, how'd you know like I've been having some stuff going on? I'm like I can like you literally can tell like I'm not saying you're definitely not being an asshole on stream by any means, but I can tell like that little spark, like as cliche as it sounds, that little spark you had when you were in engaging with people is gone. Like I can tell you're just like in autopilot mode where you're like, hey, how are you? Like play game. Hey, how are you know what I mean? It's just going through the
Mhm.
motions, and people can tell. And when people describe streamers and content creators that they really really like, they're describing that it factor that we're talking about, which is they love what they do. That's why you hit subscribe on most people is they have that intangible thing that you can't pinpoint, and most time what that intangible thing is they just love what they're doing. Um,
1,000% agreed.
so yeah, it's definitely a big thing. One thing I wanted to talk to you about, and this is not off topic, but it's something I wish I would have addressed earlier, is I don't know if you've had any experience, but how are the players? Because you said I know you're friends with Silly, is one of the main guys that you're good friends with, and you're friends with.
Boy,
Yeah, he's your boy. I just know that how are they taking all the content and like the change? Because even for pro players, it's got to be a change. Like kind of the
oh, yeah.
stakes have risen for pro players a little bit now because I'm sure with the salaries, with the medical benefits and all that stuff, like a lot more is expected of players. I feel like now in
Mhm.
every organization, like it's not like all right, hey dude, like give me a couple hours of streaming a week and we're good. Like it's like no man, like we have a content plan. Here's your contract. Like, here's what we're gonna be doing. I'm sure there's a ton of behind the scenes stuff. So I didn't know if you had noticed any difference in the players, not in a good or a bad way, but just how they've adjusted to the content output and like changing the way they're doing things.
So we're fortunate enough to have what 7 incredible guys on our team. You know,
Mm-hmm.
our 5 starters and our 2 subs. But I think it was let's say the 18th.
Mm-hmm.
So Alex is there. I think he's only been there a week, maybe at
Mm-hmm.
most. So the team's finally all in Minnesota,
Mm-hmm.
but they're all super chill, super relaxed, and they really enjoy putting out the content. So they're showing up to the facility, scrimming for was it 4, 6 hours a day,
Mm-hmm.
somewhere along that. I mean, it's all structured with all the teams, but
Yeah.
now that they're there, we've got media day, we've got photos to shoot for promos or different videos. Like they're all super about it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
what was the player summit last month?
Yeah, it was like last
Maybe.
month when they went and took pictures and everything in LA and stuff like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I know what you're talking about. Mm-hmm.
So I went and got dinner with Asim, Assault, Brian Saint, and Silly,
Mm-hmm.
and they're just super excited to get to work.
Yeah.
The only downside is having to leave home to move to Minnesota for what 8 months out of the year, but otherwise, it's great.
Mm-hmm.
They're super happy to get it done, and it's finally nice to see the guys have some security and not have to wonder, well, shit, am I getting paid this month?
Mm-hmm.
Like they're high spirited, super energetic, and super ready to get to work.
Yeah,
So
that's great to hear. And I asked that question too because I know even from the outside, I've heard like in the Chicago Huntsman's campaign video, and I know it was a quick blurb, and then attached talking about it with Golden Boy on his new podcast is the Rocker are being perceived even from other teams as like kind of the more down the most one of the most underrated teams. Like a lot of people are saying like that's a team that could literally win the event and people just aren't looking at them. Like most every time someone says who's the most underrated team, Attach said it, Scump said it, is like it's Rocker. And I think Simp said it.
1,000%.
But then also I've also heard from just outside perspective with other pieces of content that they are perceived as like the team that's getting along the best. And I think that
Oh yeah,
that goes to like what you're talking about with their laid back personality types, like GalRX, all those guys, like they're super laid back. And I think that just, I mean, Silly, I don't know him personally, but just looking at him from outside looking in, I know he's super laid back as well. So I think that
but
just helps
Justin
them.
is he's like the epitome of what I aspire to be in a human being, and
Yeah.
he's several years younger than I am, but
Mhm.
I think that's also a testament to his parents as well.
Mhm.
His mom and dad are 2 I don't even wanna say incredible because it's an understatement
Yeah.
of just how fantastic these 2 are,
Mhm.
but they raised a good man in Justin,
Yeah. Yeah.
and he tries to, be as interactive with everybody, his fans, and, he gives back a
Mhm.
lot. So to see him and, I think he teamed with GodRx back in AEW briefly?
I'm pretty sure, yeah, they were former teammates. A lot of people on that team have played together in some form or capacity, except for Asim because he's kind of new, but and Alex being EU. But I do
Mhm.
know that Justin. One thing I want to say is speak particularly to him. It just jogged my memory is a guy like him. He went from I forgot what COD it was where he didn't. I think it was Black Ops 3. So Black Ops 3 IW where he didn't qualify for the like he wasn't at champs and he didn't play on a pro team. I distinctly remember this. Do you remember what COD it was?
I'm pretty sure, it was Black Ops 3 when he was on, Cloud9 Eclipse.
Yeah,
I
maybe
think
it
he was
was.
supposed to go to champs, and then who I forget the story, but, like, he was supposed to go,
Hmm.
and then someone he didn't get dropped, like, what the hell was the story? But end of the day, like, he was set to go to champs,
Hmm.
and they're like, "Ah, nah, never mind, so and so was gonna play for you instead."
Yeah, I remember because I remember that, and I don't know why I remember this story so vividly as do. It's just I remember him tweeting it out like how pissed off he was, but he also was like, "I will be back next year," like in a way of like not in like a cliche corny way, but he was like, "I'm coming back. Like this is bullshit. I'm coming back next year." And for him to like, long story short, obviously fast forward, win like a world championship, it's insane to see like how it can go full circle. So I say all that to say like I'm glad that they're in the position they are now where they can get full health benefits, they have full
Yep.
salaries, and it just helps the orgs out too because it's clear to find expectations on both sides. So it just makes
Oh, yeah.
everybody's job a whole lot easier. And hopefully they can hopefully the CDL continues to make changes. I do think the one challenge that they're always going to have is the game itself. Like the devs, the devs have to get on. We could talk about this for an hour. I know we could. And I hate to like I told you before the podcast, and I think I told you at the beginning. Is I hate bashing on a brand new league because I know everybody's trying. Like I know the guy in freaking Infinity Wars not just sitting there with his feet kicked up, not doing shit. That dude's probably working until 10 o'clock at night. You know, everybody's trying the best way they can. So I think that will be the one challenge with the CDL as a whole is just if the game matches the esports setting. However, hopefully that gets better. But I'm glad to
Yeah.
see it.
I think that, last year with Black Ops 4, they were trying to push that
Hmm.
as a franchise thing because it worked so much like Overwatch, and, Activision is trying to copy paste Overwatch League and apply it to Call of Duty.
Hmm.
I see what they're going for, but with something that's been so established already, you
Hmm.
can't just, like, completely change the game.
No, you
So
can't. The biggest difference between Overwatch and Call of Duty is Overwatch was a game built for an esport, had no player base before the ODBL was pretty much made for the most part. Like Call of Duty has a player base, it has a grassroots system. Its whole ecosystem is night and day different from Overwatch League. Like how it became to be is different. You cannot copy and paste solely because the communities are literally North and South Pole from each other as a whole.
1,000% agreed. Like,
Hmm.
they could have done something far better, like, copy LCS.
Hmm.
Like, for me, that would have been the perfect franchising.
Hmm.
Let the teams buy their spots, but retain their branding,
Hmm.
all of the rights to their merchandise, not this templated stuff. Like, I get it,
Hmm.
and one could argue, that's how traditional sports works. To an extent, yes. Like, depending on the league, like, I don't see the Yankees and Mets doing the same templated T-shirts.
Hmm. Exactly.
One could look at the NFL and say, well, they've got such and such series where it's all the logos on the shirt and it's all camo.
Hmm.
They do that in the NFL, but they also still have unique stuff. Like my Panthers, I've got, you can't really see it behind me, but there's a Panthers blanket on my bed that I've
Hmm.
had for 20 some years.
Hmm.
They're not going to take that, color swap it, and put, Tampa Bay Bucks on there.
Yeah,
It's just not going to work.
exactly, and it just we talked about this beforehand. Is it hurts the branding? It hurts the ability for every team to build their brands and build those that community involvement. You have people like Hunt Thieves and FaZe are obviously the key leaders when it comes to merchandising, and there's a reason because they have the most unique. Even Hunt Thieves, which is they are like brilliant in the basics or brilliant in simplicity,
Oh, yeah.
basically. Like their stuff, honestly, it takes little to no like I don't want to say creativity, that's the total wrong word, but like little to no effort. Like it's super simple, like it's clean, but at the same time, it's them. Like I cannot imagine 100 of these in the CDL. It wouldn't be a thing. Like they'd be like, nope, I'm out. Like there'd be no way they'd let copy pasta of their logos. So hopefully they fix that. I like I said, I always try to assume noble intent. So like maybe they're just test running, the main store or something for the first season, and then they're going to swap it and let teams do their own thing. There's probably something like that in the works. You don't know everything going on behind the scenes. But yeah, I agree. It's definitely a head scratcher, to say the most, or say
I
the
mean, it's
least.
trial and error. Like you can take that model for Overwatch League and bring it to Call of Duty, but this year we're going to see what works and what doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully they take what doesn't work and make the changes necessary so next year
Mm-hmm.
it's more palatable for the average consumer or even the diehard fan.
Yeah, and what people don't realize is you have like take the NBA and NFL. I would love to rewind and go for the first 5 years of those two leagues and see what
Oh
they
my
looked
god.
like. Like if you could look at the first 5 years of the NFL and the NBA and the MLB, like it had to be a shit show. I guarantee it was this equally a shit show. Like so, people just automatically expect a finished product and they don't understand what all goes with that finished product. But like I said, that's something that we could definitely go over for an hour if we wanted to be completely honest, with just the
Oh
CDL.
yeah.
But moving on into kind of you yourself and going back to what you're trying to do. Right now you're working with the Rocker, but overall, what are your future goals within esports and continuing to go? Obviously, it's to build Rocker into the greatest esports organization the world's ever seen. We already know that. That's a given. Uh, but you personally, Graves personally, what is your goals in the future as an esports professional?
I honestly just want to be on somewhat even remotely close of the level of Hector. Like
Okay.
Hector Rodriguez is him and Hastro are that's what I've aspired to be
Mm-hmm.
for 10 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And not just, to be the guy that owns the team that's, everybody knows, but
Mm-hmm.
like the experiences and the charisma, the relationships that these guys have built, that's where I want to be. I want to somehow impact and influence Call of Duty esports. Like I
Mm-hmm.
want to make a mark in some way, whether it's known or not.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't care about the fame, I don't care about that, but I want to make an impact.
Yeah, you want to be able to
And
look
that's
back on your work and know that you made an impact on like building it.
1,000%.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why one of the biggest enticing factors with joining Minnesota is they were completely new. Like the only history they have was bringing on Ashley
Yep.
because she's been doing this for so many years, but
Mm-hmm.
it's literally uncharted territory, and it felt so good to be a part of that. And that was one thing I brought up in my interview with her too. Obviously, go through the interview stages,
Mm-hmm.
but I was like, "Look, I'm going to be 100% transparent. Optic and Envy, those were my two dream orgs until obviously what happened with Optic. But Envy has always been number one,
Mm-hmm.
and I could have, and I did apply for Envy,
Mm-hmm.
but for me, joining Minnesota was far more enticing because if I join Envy or Dallas Empire, they already have their formula. They know what works, what doesn't work, what they're
Mm-hmm.
going to do. So I would just kind of be going through the motions. Like it'd be a learning experience, of course, and building relationships. Don't get me wrong. Like I'm not trying to down talk that experience
No, of course
because
not. Yeah.
like if Mike called me today and said, "Hey man, we need you," I'd strongly consider it.
Yeah.
But having the opportunity to build something brand new with
Mm-hmm.
Minnesota, that's far more gratifying and far more rewarding than just joining something that already exists.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. And there's something to be said about, first experiences with everybody because everybody's a lot more humble. Everybody's a lot more ready to work and eager to learn. Um, Even strong personalities or experienced personalities like Midnight, like she's already naturally a humbling person. However, in this situation, I would think it's safe to say she's even more humbling and more like, willing to like listen to other people's ideas because everybody's on the same team and on the same sheet of music with a brand new organization. They all have the same goal. Like it's an obvious same goal, which is like build this program up. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So it's a lot easier. But yeah, that's an awesome thing, and for you to be able to say that, like that's super humbling. Like someone that's done a lot, and like someone who's gotten in your position now could easily be like, I want to do this, this, and this. But for you to be able to be humbling and be like, hey, I just want to continue to make a mark. Like I think a lot of people can take a lot of weight from that. That no matter what level you get to or what level you think you're at, there's always something you could be doing better. You could literally be the owner of the LA Optic and still think of something better. Like, what can I do to influence the CDL as a whole, not just Optic or not just the rocker or the rocker. So I think that's a really good piece of advice. But moving into that, what is your main thing that you would? I have this two-part question. So you have, what is your advice you would give to somebody who's just getting into esports? Like, they found out about it, they watched the Wednesday night fights, and they're like, dude, this is something I want to do. And, what's your advice to that individual? Maybe the Graves back in 10 years ago, and then what's your like what you wish you could tell that guy 10 years ago, and then what do you think is the good advice for people that are like, okay, I've done a couple free Bono works, I've had my resume ready, I just want to do basically what you just did. I want to like go full time. Like, what advice do you have for those two individuals?
All right, so part A, me 10 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
just fucking do it, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Just fucking do it. And I know I'm trying not to swear a lot, and I know this is, it's totally cool
No,
here,
it's
but
cool. Yeah.
um, I really had to put fucking in there because I need to emphasize that
Mm-hmm.
you need to get off your ass and actually do it.
Yeah.
Um, I sat there with my Xbox, like, man, I could get a capture card, I could do YouTube, but no one's gonna watch me. Well, yeah, no one's gonna fucking watch you because you're not putting shit out there, dude.
Yeah.
Do it.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
And if I would have started then and not waited, what, 2009, so 6 years? I waited 6 years before I did anything content wise.
Mm-hmm.
I missed the mark. I missed my mark. So just do it for one.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it doesn't matter if you think, you're, you prop up your cell phone on a fucking tripod and record your screen. Whatever you need to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Just do it. Put the content out there and be consistent.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not consistently putting stuff out there, no one's going to have eyes on you and you're not going to do that thing you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So just
100%.
don't wait, get started. Period.
Mm-hmm.
There's no excuse. Oh, I don't have the equipment. I don't have find a way. Seriously. Like it sounds condescending almost to say, but find a way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Part B to that question, it's kind of a loaded question, but
Yeah.
I'm just going to give my 2 cents on it. So up until joining Rocker,
Mm-hmm.
most of my work was like free work.
Yeah.
I've gotten kickbacks here and there. Like Panda was fucking incredible about kickbacks. Like, I bought my jersey
Mm-hmm.
like a week or two after joining the team because that was my thing. If I'm joining a team, I'm gonna do what I can to support the team, and if it means buying a shirt or a jersey or whatever, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah. Exactly.
And it's win-win because now I'm getting something out of it, and they're getting a small contribution from me plus my unbridled support. But when I bought the jersey, I also got my pro hoodie,
Mm-hmm.
and that alone was $80. Meta Threads was charging for that.
Yeah.
So the jersey alone was, I think, 80 or something like that on top of the pro hoodie. But I just got the pro hoodie because that was a nice kickback from the team recognizing my hard work. So don't go in, especially if you're brand new, don't go in expecting to get a paid gig right off the bat. If you have no experience, it's just not realistic.
Mm-hmm.
It's not to say you can't do it, but it's very unrealistic too. And I've been doing this for 4 years now professionally.
Mm-hmm.
And prior to that, another 6 just puttering around bullshit orgs. But if you're going to do this, expect to work for free a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And it sucks to say, I'm sure we're going to get comments, oh, that shitty advice, know your worth. Absolutely know your worth.
Mm-hmm.
But you also have to pay your dues. Like, you're not just going to dive in and get that salaried position.
No.
Like, know your worth, show your value, and it'll happen. But don't give up either. Like,
Yeah.
there was a stint I went, let's see, I got my resume up over here. I went almost a year. Yeah, almost a year with my small content team
Mm-hmm.
and bouncing around other smaller, like, I don't want to say B League or D League teams, but low tier content teams,
Mm-hmm.
helping them and gaining experience for me, knowing what I don't want and learning how I can improve other processes.
Mm-hmm.
So take all that free work, use it as a learning experience, but make note of every single thing you've done.
Yeah.
That's one thing I wish I would have done with Panda, because if I would have done that, my blurb on my resume for Panda is like this, but if I
Mm-hmm.
would have kept track, it could have, been a full page in and of itself.
Yep.
So document everything, learn, be open to learn,
Hmm.
and don't have an ego. Those are my 3 bullet points for how to make it in esports. Learn, don't have an ego, and document it all.
Yeah, document it all is huge, and I'm sure you'll hear at some point with the Helena episode is that was her thing was like everything you've done, like even just going to like MLG Dallas, like that's an esport. In her words, that's an esports networking event. Like she said, she's had
Mhm.
several resumes where she's read them and she knows the resume she's reading. Like she knows the person, and she's like, this dude's done way more than this. Like everything, like if you go to PAX East, PAX South, if you do anything like that, that needs to be documented. Like something you think is just something you did for fun. No, that's an esport. That's you at the very least. That is you having exposure to the esports scene firsthand that other people may not have. And if you're submitting at resume A and someone else submits resume B and they're literally identical, but you've gone to 6 events and he's gone to none, and you actually annotated that, that could be the difference between you getting hired or not. Um, so I definitely agree with you right there. That document everything you've done, where it's free bono work, and one thing I would add on to that I think you agree with too is like do stuff on your own. Like I'm not working with
1,000%.
any companies myself, but like I'm making marketing decks. Like I'm making like a generic marketing deck for, esports as a whole. Like if anyone who's never been to esports, like here's a deck that you should look at, like what you should focus on when you're investing, stuff like that. It's like do whatever you can, have as much in the bank as you can, because that's going to be useful for when you go and actually give that resume to somebody, because that's what they care about. Because it shows not only experience, but it shows like they actually like give a shit. Like you have passion about what you're doing, and
For
you've actually
sure.
gone out of the way.
And to tack onto that too, networking.
Mm-hmm.
That's such an invaluable piece of information,
Mm-hmm.
whether it be, popping in somebody's stream. Don't hop in the stream and say, "Hey, I stream too. Come check out my channel."
Yeah.
Build a meaningful relationship.
Yep.
That is networking, not swapping contact info.
Yeah.
That helps, but you've got to build those relationships. And without the relationships I've built, I wouldn't be where I am today.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Exactly.
Panda was huge for that, and Ben, we don't talk every day like we used to, but
Mm-hmm.
I know if I need a good reference or if I'm looking for a job, I can say, "Hey Ben, this is where I'm at. You know anybody?"
Mm-hmm.
He might not immediately, but I guarantee a couple days or a week later, I'll get a call or a DM. "Hey, check this out, check that out. Send me your resume. Do this."
Mm-hmm.
All because I busted my ass for this guy. You know?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Ben and Helena both are good for that, and I think that networking, like even something I was talking about with one guy is you may not directly get a job from that person, but like if you hook up with a guy through social media and you guys are talking, whatever, like you might not even show him anything. You might just be a good dude. Like that's my good advice for anybody in any facet ever is just be a good dude. Like if you're just a
For
good dude to
sure.
that guy, and then let's say you follow each other on Twitter, and then God forbid, like Hastro's, like I need a content manager, and you're like I'd be good for that. Like I'd be willing to do that. He might think about it, be like, oh okay, but then that guy that you networked with, like, hey Hastro, hit that dude up. He's a good dude. Like I don't know what kind of work he's done, but I know he's a good guy, and you want him on your team. Like the dude doesn't even have to see your work. Like if you just network and make meaningful relationships, that can be the difference between you
Hmm.
getting a job or getting to where you want to get. And people don't realize that. People think you have to always have to like give to get, like you have to have something. That's not always the case. Like sometimes it's just being a good dude and making friends, which is a lot easier or easier than it sounds. It's actually pretty hard sometimes, especially for
Yeah.
me, introverted like myself. I don't like talking to people,
Same.
but I'm totally okay with sitting in the corner at an event and watching the screens. Like I am totally okay with that. So I know how hard it is for anyone that's listening to this. It's like, it's not me. Trust me. Like after me and Anthony or me and Graves are done with this, I'm going to literally like probably have to take a nap because I'm gonna be like exhausted mentally. Um, so I totally
but
understand
uh,
it.
but yeah, like even with events,
Mm-hmm.
you and I both heavily introverted. At events, I force myself to break out of that
Oh yeah.
shell. Like
Mm-hmm.
I've got business cards with my name, my info. It's a really stupid design, but it's got all my shit on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going around to like Anaheim this past year.
Mm-hmm.
I met Diesel, gave him my card. We started talking. We tried to get him on the podcast. Our schedules just didn't line up.
Mm-hmm.
But Diesel, Gunlist, Adam,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, MLG, all these guys, I'm breaking out of my comfort zone
Mm-hmm.
because I know these are the people I need to talk to. These are the guys that have awesome stories that I would love to share.
Mm-hmm.
It may not, amount to anything, but at least you're getting out there. They know who you are, And let's see, I met Adam several years ago in Anaheim, and then I saw him this past champs. I'm like, hey Adam, pleasure to meet you. You know, we've met several times before. Oh yeah, I remember you, man. We were in the elevator, and I had to break up that fight with one of your players at Panda.
Oh yeah, I
Like,
remember that.
you
Oh
never
Lord.
know who's gonna remember,
Yeah,
but
I remember. I remember that. Oh
just
Lord.
get yourself out of that shell, and it's
Mm.
uncomfortable at first.
Mm.
Believe me, I fucking know.
Yeah.
But once you do it, there's nothing to it. And I just rhymed. God, I'm gonna kill myself.
Hey, it's okay. Everybody gets one. Um, yeah, man, that's awesome advice, and I hope anybody listening, like, you can take away from people who like aren't like Graves is more naturally good at than I am, but people that aren't naturally like conversive people that aren't actually like wanting to be conversive, like so like it's not like I'm sitting up here as Hector and be like, yeah, just do it. Like, yeah, Hector, of course you're saying just do it. It's easy for you, dude. Like you could talk to a wall and probably get them to come with you, but like for
Yeah,
someone who has to like work at it, I'm telling you, it's not as bad as you think. Is you just gotta get yourself out there and just attack it. Especially in esports, people are a lot more open in esports because I feel like esports industry is a lot more open, like because it's still kind of the wild wild west a little bit. It's a little bit easier to make headway very quickly if you do it the right way, and just be a good guy. So overall, it's great advice that I love that you gave for people. Um,
sure.
and I appreciate it. And so, we're close to wrapping up here. I've said this in a couple other podcasts. I hate outros because I never know how to format outros, mainly because I like talking to you, like my guests. Like I'll talk for 2 hours, but in the aspect of giving an outro, the first thing I want to do is anything that you want to say, and then also some social media, like anywhere people can find you, and maybe find the rocker as well. Just any other social media profiles you want to shout out.
For sure. So, for advice, literally get off your ass and do it.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not gonna happen. It's not gonna fall in your lap. You can sit here and dream about doing it, and maybe one day. Stop making excuses.
Mm-hmm.
Get off your ass and do it. Like the first step of getting to any dream of yours is overcoming that fear of failure.
Mm-hmm.
So don't be afraid to fail
Yep.
because you're never failing if you're learning.
Yes, I agree.
Just do it. That's all you got to do. Just like you said, Hector, just do it.
Yeah, just do it.
But for me, for socials, Christ, I hate being a shill. But Twitter, Instagram, I'm at Graves FPS. You
Mm-hmm.
can catch me on Twitch at twitch.tv/Graves. I think that's really all my socials. TikTok is It's Graves with
Mm-hmm.
an S. It's Graves because my gamer tag is It's Graves with a Z. It's a mess and inconsistent as shit, but it is what it is. Rocker, rocker.gg is the website, and
Mm-hmm.
there's actually a bar at the top with all of our socials, like Instagram. I think Instagram is rocker underscore MN.
Mm-hmm.
Twitter is just at rocker. I'm pretty sure YouTube is just rocker as well. I mean, you'll see. Just look for this guy here.
Yeah, yeah.
When you do that, it's a pretty good chance that it's actually us. I've only seen one fake account pop up for us so far on TikTok,
Oh,
so
that's it.
hopefully
Damn it.
it's a trend.
Hey, that's a measure of success. Once you start getting fake accounts or fan accounts, like you're like, yeah, I made it. No, I'm just kidding.
Bro, I
Uh,
had two
really?
pop up for me. There's still one that's around, but another had my picture from Panda when I was in my jersey.
I think I remember you post about that on Twitter. You're like, this is not me. Like, I can't get this to go away. I'm not 100%. I'm pretty sure that was you. I remember that. It was a while back.
Yeah, bro, it was about a year or two ago,
Mm-hmm.
and Christ, was it Parasite and Censor were following this account? I'm like, nah, that's not me. Chill,
Yeah,
delete that
exactly.
shit. And I only found out about it because one of my partners retweeted a tweet of them using one of my pictures promoting that product. Like, cool, it's free promo for that sponsor, but bro, that's not me. That's not my account.
Mm-hmm.
And they changed their ad and like, oh, I'm not doing any harm. You're kind of damaging my brand and my image, dude. I
Yeah.
no,
Nah, it's
but
crazy.
that's another story for another day.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, like he mentioned his social medias. If you're watching this on YouTube, I'll have all his stuff linked below as well as all the rocker stuff linked below. If you're listening to this on Spotify, Graves at Graves FPS, Graves SPF is the way you can get a hold to him. And then if you want to look at my stuff too, it's at Samajama TV. And when this goes live, I will be promoting his stuff throughout the week on all of my social medias, so you can look to us for that. But yeah, Graves, I appreciate you, man, coming in and taking an hour out of your time to talk to everybody. Hopefully, and I know the listeners will get something out of this because you were a first-hand example of somebody that just No matter how long or short it takes, if you just work at it and you want to do it, just like you said, get off your ass and do it. Like you can get to where you want to be. It's not as bad or as scary as you think overall.
For sure. You just got to take your lumps, man. That's all there is to it. Like it's not going to happen overnight,
Mm-hmm.
but it'll happen. If you want it and you work hard enough, it'll happen.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, I appreciate so much, Graves. And for anyone else listening to the content workshop, thank you all so much if you made it this far. We post every Sunday. The time differentiates, but we do post on Sundays on YouTube and Spotify. It just depends on the time based off how my job goes with my full-time job I have right now. However, it will go up on Sundays, and so you can catch us there, and hopefully we can have it on our platforms soon in the future as well. But thank you all so much for tuning into the content workshop, and I hope you all have a good rest of your day. Thanks, guys.